Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now talking about the post-fertilization event, meaning all those things and you can say phenomena that will be taking place after the fertilization has been completed. So what all things will happen? The endosperm will develop, the embryo will develop, the ovules are going to become into the seed, and the ovary will become the fruit. These all things will happen. Now let us talk about it. The endosperm development. Now you know that when the male gamete fuses with the polar nuclei, the endosperm is formed, right? So that endosperm, it has the nucleus, which we call as the primary endosperm nucleus. It is a triploid cell. Now that, sorry, it is a triploid nucleus. Now that nucleus is going to turn into the primary endosperm cell, and then it will start to form the endosperm tissue. Now, what is the significance of endosperm? Is that when the seed stage will be there, this endosperm will be there for nutrient. So it will provide nourishment to the the seed. Now the cells of this tissue, they are filled with reserve food material, and they are used for nutrition, providing nutrition to the developing embryo inside the seed. So this is how the, like you can say, the endosperm is going to function, and that is the case. Now what happens is that this is the thing that I've explained, that every nuclear division is followed by a cellular division. But when in the unique situations, when the nucleus divides into several nuclei, but the cell doesn't divide or the cell wall is not formed, so that multinucleated free nuclei situation is called as a syncytium. Okay, this is a unique case. So the primary endosperm nucleus, what happens to it? Where does it? So what happens to it is that it undergoes successive nuclear division and gives rise to free nuclei. So it becomes like a multinucleated situation, and that situation endosperm is called as free nuclear endosperm. Hmm. But after this free nuclear endosperm formation, now the cell wall is laid down, which is making it to become a cellular endosperm. So after the cell wall formation takes place, and now the endosperm is going to become the cellular endosperm. Now, one example is many a times asked in questions like the coconut water is the free nuclear endosperm. The coconut water that we drink, that is free nuclear endosperm. But the white kernel, the white portion that we eat from the coconut, that is the cellular endosperm. So both the kinds of endosperms are found in the coconut. Now, in the seeds, such as the pea, groundnut, beans, the endosperm is completely consumed by the developing embryo. So, they do not leave any endosperm at all. They consume it all during the growth and development. Whereas, when we talk about the castor and coconut, so in them, the endosperm is present, but it is not completely consumed. So depending upon the species or depending upon the plant, the endosperm in some can be present, in some it won't be there, in some new cells is also seen. So that is the case. So endosperm development is clear. Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Then comes the embryo development. Now the embryo develops at the micropylar end. It develops at the micropyle where the zygote is situated. So it develops at that point where the zygote is placed. Now, most of the zygotes, they divide only after some endosperm has been made, so that the developing embryo will be getting the nourishment. Now, the embryo and its nourishment is very important. Now, the early development of that embryo is called as embryogeny. Now, the development of embryo for the monocots and for the dicot, it's more or less the same. What are the stages that it undergoes? First, from the embryo, proembryo is formed. Then, globular embryo is formed. Heart-shaped embryo is formed, and then completely it becomes mature. This picture is there in your NCERT book also. They've shown different stages of the embryo development if you look at it. Now, the dicot embryo, it has two things: the embryonal axis and the cotyledons that are 2 in number. That is why they are dicot. So the region above the embryonal axis is called as epicotyle, and the region below the embryonal axis is called as the hypocotyle. Okay. So what happens is that this part, meaning the apical part, which is there, or the epicotyle part, it will become the plumule, and this plumule will be giving rise to the stem. Because right now we imagine we are talking about the seed. Inside the seed, what all things are there? So this plumule will be giving rise to the stem or the shoot of the future plant, whereas the hypocotyle, it terminates with the structure called as radicle. So it will be giving rise to the root. So plumule gives rise to the shoot, radicle gives rise to the root. If you ever get confused, always remember R for radicle, R for root. Okay. Now the tip of the root is covered with a thimble-like structure called as the root cap. So this was for monocot embryo, meaning inside the, you can say the ultrastructure of a monocot, dicot seed. Now coming on to the monocot embryo. So here, obviously if it is monocot, number of cotyledon will be 1. And the name of the cotyledon is called as scutellum. Mostly in the grass family, it is called as scutellum. Now, this is not situated in the middle. It is sort of lateral in position. Okay, it is like lateral or at the side of the embryonal axis. Radicle is present, root cap is present, right? And even plumule is present. But the radicle is surrounded with a layer called as coleorhiza, and the plumule gets surrounded by coleoptile. This is like protective layering around them. Now to remember, radicle, coleorhiza has R in it. So coleorhiza covers the radicle. Plumule, coleoptile has P in it. So coleoptile covers the plumule. Okay. These are just tricks to, trick your mind that, okay, you know everything. Okay. Then coming outer side of the embryo, we have the seed. Now seed, it is like in very short term. What is the seed? It is the mature ovule. When the ovule gets matures, it becomes a seed. Now the seed is a fertilized ovule. There are 3 types of seed. The first one is endospermic seed, which is also called as albuminous seed. Here, endosperm is present, doesn't get consumed completely, such as in the case of wheat, maize, barley, coconut, castor, and even in the case of sunflower. But when we talk about the non-endospermic seeds, so they consume all the endosperm and no endosperm is left behind, such as in the case of pea, groundnut, and bean. The last one is the perispermic seed. So perispermic seeds, these are the ones where the nucellus is seen. Imagine nucellus, you remember nutritive tissue, that is seen in the seed. So this nucellus, which is persistent, it got left behind. We call that nucellus as the perisperm. So those seeds that have the perisperm present, we call them as the perispermic seed, such as in the case of black pepper and beet. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now let us see the structure of the seed. So the seed has a very tough outer layer present, which we call as the seed coat. And when the integuments that were there, the outer integument, the inner integument, when they become hard, they become the seed coat. Okay, it's very tough and it's very protective in nature. What are the 2 layers? Outer testa. So the outer layer of the seed coat, it is called as testa. And the inner layer of the seed coat is called as tegmen. Now, even in the seeds, have you noticed the seed of that gram, chana? Chana seeds, have you noticed? No. You never noticed chana seeds? Like chole, you've eaten chole?
I've eaten round lotus seeds.
You never notice the seed. Okay. Now next time it is made at your home, do notice the seed. What you like raw seed, not cooked. If you pick it up and you just look at, like, if I tell you the structure, it's sort of like this, isn't it? This is the basic structure. You will see a tiniest hole there. That hole or that pore is the micropyle. The micropyle still remains as a pore. Now, why is it there? Because you know that we use the seed only to plant a new plant, to give rise to the new plant. So these pores, they help so that the oxygen and water could enter during the seed germination. So imagine how intricate is it. Now inside the seed, there is also the endosperm, which we have already discussed. It may be present, it may be absent. And the embryo is also there, which will give rise to the mature plant. Clear? Then comes two topics, dormancy and seed germination. Now, dormancy is when, if you've planted a seed, no plant is coming out of it. Why? Because that seed is in a dormant state, meaning the embryo is not working at that time. It will not be able to germinate. Why? Because favorable conditions are not present. Maybe enough water is not there. Maybe moisture is decreased, right? So, because of that, the seed will never germinate. And during this time of dormancy, what happens is that the moisture content gets reduced to 10 to 15%, very less. So it's like a survival mode. Then the seed germination is the exact opposite of dormancy. It's like the seed will flourish. It will, the plumule will be giving rise to the shoot. The radicle will be giving rise to the root, and the favorable conditions will be there, meaning moisture, oxygen, temperature, all of these things will be there. And the seed will give rise to the seedling or a tiny plant. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now let us see the advantages of the seeds to the angiosperm. How is it good? So because we know that the seed is the only structure of the plant that will give rise to the new plant, right? So it is very important for that. Apart from that, it's very important as it is the food reserve for the young seedling. All the nourishment it is going to get it is present in the seed itself. The seed coat, it provides the protection to the young embryo so that it doesn't get degraded in the soil. And it generates new variations. Why? Because ultimately all of this is the result of sexual reproduction. And sexual reproduction is equal to variations, like new generation or new combinations are seen. And seeds are very important because they show these two properties, dehydration and dormancy. This is very important. Why are the seeds important? Because they show these two properties. That is, like if you want to store the seed off season, also you get so many seeds. How? Because they are dehydrated. And if they get dehydrated, they sort of suspend. And when you'll provide them with water, they'll rehydrate and they'll germinate. And dormancy, you already know, in any stressful situation, the seed will become dormant. It will be like, okay, now I can't grow because things are not in my favor. Now, temperature, oxygen not in my favor, I'll stay still. When it will be in my favor, I'll flourish. Clear? Then comes seed viability. Just like pollen viability, there is seed viability. It is the time period for which the seed is going to be good for germination, or else after the viability is done, it can't germinate. Example, oxalis, the seeds, they lose viability within few months. But lupine, which is Lupinus arcticus, it is the oldest seed that was excavated from Arctic tundra, and it germinated after 10,000 years of dormancy. Imagine 10,000, after 10,000 years, still planted. Same way, the date palm, that is Phoenix dactylifera, this was also excavated, meaning it was found under that archaeological expedition, that is excavation. So near the Dead Sea, and it was viable after 2000 years also. So 2000 and 10,000, imagine how long. This much is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Now the number of seed in a fruit is equal to the number of ovules in the ovary, right? You know that however many ovules are there, those ovules only will turn into the seed, and the seed will be present inside the fruit. So the number of ovules and the number of seed will always be equal. It will never be more. So orchid fruit, they contain thousands of tiny seeds. Parasitic species, They also contain many tiny seeds such as orobranchi and striga. These are some examples of uniqueness. Like they have thousands and thousands of seeds. Then comes the fruit, which is the ripened ovary. So when the ovary gets ripened, it becomes a fruit. The wall of the ovary becomes the wall of the fruit, and we call it as pericard. Now there are three types of fruit. True fruit, which develops from the ovary, such as best example, mango. Do you like mangoes?
No,
What? You don't?
not. I don't really choose to eat a mango. If I get it, I eat it.
You've never, I don't think you ever had Indian mangoes that way, right? That is why you're saying this. I get it if you've just had Alfonso and stuff, they're not good. But okay, I'm sad. I'm sad for you. All right. Then which is your favorite fruit? Don't say no one.
Yeah, watermelon. I like watermelon.
Yeah, me too. Okay. All right. The next fruit is false fruit. Now, all those fruits that will not be developing from the ovary, they'll not be true fruit. So now the fruits that develop from the floral part, such as thalamus, in the case of apple, strawberry, cashew nut, all of these, they do not develop from ovary, they develop from thalamus. So these are false fruit. And then there is parthenocarpic fruit, meaning these are the fruits that develop artificially without fertilization, just by applying some hormones. So they will be seedless. They do not have seed. Best example, banana. Clear? Now the fruits, they can be fleshy, such as mango, guava, oranges, and it can be dry, such as mustard, groundnut. One more thing, the vegetables that we eat, those are also fruits only, if you think about it. Right? We call them vegetables, but biologically or botanically, they are fruits. Then comes the last thing of this chapter, that is apomixis and polyembryony. So now when the seed are produced without fertilization, we call it as apomixis. It is seen in grasses and the family, like the members of the family Asteraceae. So it's like a asexual reproduction, which will be mimicking the sexual reproduction. Because here, sexual reproduction means fertilization has to happen. But here, fertilization is not taking place, but still the seed is formed. So that is sort of like a mimicry. This is a apomixis. Now, apomixis, this is of two types. Adventive, when the embryo, it arises from sporophytic cells, meaning the diploid body cells of the plant, such as nucellus, integument. These are not reproductive structures. These are nutritive structures. So when the seeds are getting developed from there, or the embryo is getting developed from there, we call it as adventive apomixis. It takes place in citrus, opuntia, mango. Then comes polyembryony. Now, polyembryony is when poly means many, embryo, you understand embryo, right? So it is a phenomena where more than one embryo is found in a seed, such as in the case of citrus fruits. Then comes apomictic polyembryony. Now, many hybrid varieties. Now, this is a little bit extra, I think so. So, a hybrid variety can be made as they will have higher yield, vigor, and stress resistance. So, the production of hybrid, it is very costly. So, apomixis is the best solution, right? Because in that way, there is no reproduction that is being done, and still the seeds and the embryo is being prepared. So, it's very cost effective. Clear? So,
Yes.
with this, we are finally done with this chapter. Now, see, since this was a very long chapter, so once you're done taking down the notes, I am thinking of starting reproductive health because it's very tiny and very nice. Because human reproduction we are already doing in the NEET class. I will do that here also, but after reproductive health. Is it okay with you, or shall I go serially?
I will do reproductive health.
Okay. Tell me the last thing you've written.
Um, the post fertilization events, those four. One sec.
All right, now you can note it down.
Ma'am, can you scroll? Ma'am, can you scroll? Done, ma'am. And can you scroll? Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am. I'm supposed to have my test at this time. I have to leave the class.
Yes, what are you saying?
I'm supposed to have my test at this time, so I have to leave the class now. Can I leave?
Test like which test? Learnivio test.
Yes, ma'am.
Like, can you attempt it later also?
Ma'am, I'll ask the team.
So they have said that you have it today only. Wait, let me check. I'll just drop a message. Yes, see, Jaslyn, you can attempt the test after the class also.
Okay, ma'am.
Hmm.
Ma'am, can you scroll? Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am. Can you scroll? Ma'am, can you scroll? Ma'am, can you scroll? Done, ma'am. 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 Ma'am, can you scroll? 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 Done, ma'am. And for false fruit, can you show the examples? Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am. Done, ma'am. Ma'am, can you scroll? Ma'am, can you scroll? Ma'am, can you scroll? And
Yes. Any doubts?
no, ma'am.
All right. So with this, we have actually completed this particular chapter, that is the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Now let us see the preview. The next chapter that we are going to be starting with is the reproductive health. Now reproductive health, as you might have already studied, that it is the whole entire holistic approach to being healthy in terms of physical, emotional, and the social well-being of a human. Now, wait, before this, just 1 second, I'm sharing my screen with you. Okay, see, before we start a new chapter, just try to attempt these questions and tell me if you're getting stuck anywhere. So we just have 10 minutes left to the class to be over. So you attempt these questions and we'll be starting a new chapter in the next class, okay? So you attempt these questions. I'm just coming in 2 minutes.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, done till here, Jason.
Sorry, ma'am.
Yeah, are you done till here?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, what's the fourth answer?
The answer for the first one. A dicotyledonous plant bears flowers but never produces fruits and seeds. The most probable cause for the above situation. It has flowers but it never produces seed. Yeah, see, plant is dioecious, but dioecious means having male and female both in one, and being pistillate and being staminate means the pistil and the stamen, they are sterile. They don't work. Okay, meaning they are infertile. So that is the answer, the B. Clear?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, can you scroll?